Yeah, hey there. Been a while since I made a hockey video, so I figured to make one. Um, I'd like to actually talk about statistical information here and things that people would deem as facts, rather than tinfoil conspiracy theories that I usually try to cobble together. But anyway, but first I wanted to talk about the hockey guy and his suggestion of getting jerseys from full moon jerseys. They operate out of eBay. It's where I got the Daniel Briere jersey. It's where I got the Ryan Miller jersey, and they're quite good. And you can pick them up at not bad prices. It's the shipping that really burns you, because they always want like $25 shipping. I don't know why, they just do. But yeah, they're all fairly good. I did not get this Atlanta Thrasher jersey from them. I got it from somebody else. It was brand new when I got it with tags and all, and as everyone knows, the Atlanta Thrashers ain't been around for a few years. And Ryan Miller hasn't been on the Buffalo Sabres for quite a while, and Daniel Briere hadn't worn that particular style Philadelphia Flyer jersey for some time. I still haven't gotten the Stanley Cup put on. I've had other things going on. The only thing I've got to say about that is, although they're brand new jerseys in the sense that nobody ever owned them before, because they have all the right tags on them and all that, and they're all kosher in that manner, it's just like some of the material looks as though it's, you know, been stored away somewhere in a warehouse, or it's been hanging in a display piece for a while. As far as crests and shoulder emblems go, those are all perfectly fine. There are no creases on them or anything like that, but particularly in the lower area, there's some wrinklage, and there is some on this Atlanta Thrashers jersey too. That's just because who knows how many years ago this one was made and where it's been since, but it came with the tags. So anyway, that out of the way, I wanted to talk about trade deadline. There's still a couple of days left. Something significant could happen. Quite often I'm finding that I'm not very entertained by the trades that are coming up. In the last few years, there's not really been anybody notable that's moved and made big difference for another team. Like sometimes there's teams that just want to make that extra push in the playoffs, and they figure if they acquire a player, they can make it work. And sometimes there is possibility that, most certainly, there have been players that were seemingly kind of mediocre on the team they were before, and then they got brought over and they did good things with another team. One of them being Marian Gaborik. Who knows if he's gonna do much good in Ottawa. He's had injuries as well this year. Kind of underperforming for how much he's being paid at 4.8. He is getting a little older, as you may expect, and he's been roughed around a lot quite a bit. I mean, everyone knows when Dominic Hasek came out at him and he had to do like a somersault. That was more theatrical. It's the little things that get you all the time. It's not usually the big show type things that do it. Anyway, LA traded him for Dion Phaneuf. Not having a particularly good season. He's -10, he's not the big wall, the big defenseman. Oh, he's still a big guy, but he's not the intimidating factor he used to be. He never got as good as like a Zdeno Chara or anything like that. And Zdeno Chara is not much bigger than him, but they're both that kind of a defenseman. But anyway, he's not doing very well, so they've moved him. And he was a bigger cap hit at 5.2. It's like whatever. Like I almost forgot that the likes of Dion Phaneuf or Rick Nash or, you know, Eddie Lack, unfortunately, Derek Brassard. Those guys just sort of, you know, like I almost forgot they existed. I mean, I'm keeping up with hockey, although I've been, you know, preoccupied with other things. But those are guys that have been moved around. Derek Brassard, that was a good pickup for Pittsburgh. He can score goals. He's got assists. Had a pretty good year, and I think that's one of the cushy benefits of having won the Stanley Cup is you got a little bit of muscle when it comes to making some sort of a trade that is actually going to benefit you, because he's a top six forward, and they didn't even give up much for him. They gave up, you know, Ian Cole. He's you know, he won a Stanley Cup last year, obviously, but you know, sometimes it's not the player, it's the team that makes the difference in trade negotiations. Like saying, yeah, they were part of a team, he played well, this, that, and the other, they won a Stanley Cup, because it's all got to do with chemistry, it's got to do with whether the dynamics of the player, and all sorts of aspects. Other players got moved too, of course. Thomas Buchanan, having a pretty lousy season, and he's going to Toronto. Not much to talk about there. Rick Nash going to Boston. Almost completely forgot he existed. Like, obviously, fairly big guy, forward, kind of lumbering, kind of slow. He can score the odd goal, but he's just barely a top six forward. He's like, he'd be, you know, he'd be like the fifth or sixth best player on the top two lines. I honestly don't think Boston is particularly going to profit with him being there. Maybe they can make it work, but that will have to be seen, obviously. They gave up Ryan Spooner for him. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons why players get traded. It's not just statistical information, whether they scored a lot of goals, whether they've had injuries, how old they are. I mean, all those things play factors. But actually, I believe quite a bit of it has to do with the player and the package that goes with it, which means everything around them. Because NHL hockey players are, you know, in a sense, a cult of personality of their own. Every single hockey player in the NHL is, in a sense, a cult of personality, because they have, well, whatever you want to call them, I guess I'll just call them minions just to make it easy. Surrounding that player, promoting their image, and doing all technical paperwork. And I don't know any of that stuff, okay? I bet they don't even know it either. But, you know, you don't get guys like Sidney Crosby, who make absurd amounts of money, and everyone talks so nicely about him and always complimenting him and things like that, even when he slashes like a guy like Method's finger pretty bad. Didn't need to do that. That was a dickish move on his part. But anyway, that sort of got brushed away. I know there have been other players who have done, you know, maybe they did a bad body check or something like that, and it has haunted their career. And because it was Sidney Crosby who did something like that, it's like, it's almost like it didn't happen. It got forgotten. Dickish move on his part. He shouldn't have done that. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Yeah, NHL players, it is to do with their physical skill, their ability to play hockey, their hockey intellect, and things like that. Those are all factors, but it's also, you know, the people who are propping them up for a sales pitch for the NHL, how they can profit NHL teams, how they can profit the NHL as a whole, and all that sort of stuff. So there's, and then, you know, then you get into the personal details of whether, you know, some hockey players are arrogant, you know, pricks who are hard to deal with. Some are nice, but nice guys finish last. There's all sorts of reasons why a player could be traded, and it may not be statistical information that's most certainly not available for any Tom, Dick, and Harry to go look up and go, ugh. So it is easy to go, like getting back to Derek Brassard. Derek Brassard at this point is a way better player than Ian Cole, way more valuable. But there's probably other reasons, and as I stated, because Pittsburgh had won the Stanley Cup and they just got that bit of leverage. There are other players that, I'm at a loss for words to explain why they're not more sought after. Michael Grabner is one player in particular. He got moved to New Jersey. He was once a Canuck. He didn't register too many points, and I seem to remember him having kind of a falling out. But then he got traded into New York Islanders and did quite well for a little while there. And he's been moved around quite a bit. But as it is now, he's a guy who's being paid about $1.6 million per year. I don't know if that would change next year or not. I didn't read his contract that thoroughly. I mean, I had a quick look at it, but that was about it. 25 goals. He's got 25 goals. A guy like that who can score goals, yeah, definitely worth picking up. Good move by New Jersey to pick up him. For some reason he doesn't get any assists though. I don't know, maybe it's just the line he's on, maybe he was on, they just couldn't, and the other guys couldn't get goals together. And scoring goals is more important than assists in my opinion. It's getting the job done is what it's all about. Okay, well, who else got moved? Pierre Mrazek, he was once on Detroit. He was Detroit's goalie. Now he's on Philadelphia. Not much to talk about there. Eddie Lack went to New Jersey. Relatively cheap goalie. I liked him as a Canuck. He didn't, do particularly well here, and the fan base here were, unkindly to him, which was not very nice. But I've always not minded Eddie Lack, and and now he's playing with Corey Schneider, or could be. I don't know if he will or won't. There is another goaltender there, so that will have to be sorted out, and I'm sure New Jersey's got a game plan for that. Now, one thing, one player being moved, I don't understand why exactly it is, and that's Darcy Kumper, I believe you pronounce his name, something like that. Anyway, he's been moved. He went to Arizona. He played for the Los Angeles Kings. I know he's been on Minnesota and things like that. I don't know how well he did there, but for LA this year, he did quite well. I think he had like 10 wins and 1 loss. And they traded him for like some goaltender I had never heard of before. I mean, Scott Wedgehammer, Wedge Peckerwood, I don't know. some nobody goaltender. And I think they got another player out of it too. What was his name? Tobias Rabias or something, or Ribeiro. Maybe I'm just thinking of other hockey players that have existed throughout the NHL, and that name started to sound familiar. But anyway, he was a nobody player. Minus 15 or something like that. Not worth having. But they moved him, and you may go, well, why would they move a goaltender who happened to be doing particularly well on a bad team, but it was relatively cheap. I don't know if his contract's running out and he was going to want more money in the future or whatever. But NHL hockey clubs, no matter how stupid it may seem, there actually is a method to the madness. There's a reason they do things. And it's always a solid one, because when you're talking about that kind of money and, Here I am going, oh, he's not being paid much at 650 grand. That's like more money than a lot of people actually make in their entire lives. And he was just being paid for 1 year. But we're talking two different things here. We're talking about the NHL as opposed to average day, everyday person making money at whatever their occupation is. So anyway, we're going to put that aside. There might be personal reasons why Darcy Cooper was moved. Don't know. Not really a big deal to me either. I look into hockey, but it has been a while since I sat through a whole game and watched it. And people go, well, how can you call yourself a hockey fan if you don't sit through games and watch them? You contribute to the sport in your way, and I contribute in my way. I contribute by wearing jerseys every day. You contribute by sitting on your fat ass watching a game however often. Like I wear the NHL as a shirt every day, almost, unless I'm in a situation that doesn't call for it. But that's how I contribute. That's my area of speciality when it comes to the game. Obviously, there are more hardcore hockey fans than me that not only do that, but also know everything about the game and know everything about the specifics of most games that occur every day. Like the hockey guy, for example. I'm not that into hockey. I'm into hockey, but not that much. A lot of it is style for me. I like my style. But anyway, did I say a single name on that, trade deadline sort of thing that's been going on that's been noteworthy? Not particularly. Most of these people are, they're forgotten, quiet players. Some people have made out quite well on this trade deadline, in particular New Jersey, I think, in my opinion. Pittsburgh, definitely. New York, the Rangers may do well with Spooner, we'll have to see, but nobody else is really worth talking about. Getting back to Dion Phaneuf, his days are behind him, and everybody knew that after, his failed campaign in Toronto as captain. They knew, that was his glimmering chance to, be a leader of the team. Had a hot wife, I assume he still does, an actress of some sorts, I forget her name now. Although I bet that's a bit of a stretch for her, because he's got a face it's almost like a Terminator gone wrong. It's I'm sure he's a nice enough guy or something, but phew, yeah, man, is he ugly. He's got a brick wall for a face. Anyway, that's not very nice. But my point remains valid that his best hockey is already behind him. And he's not that old too. He's only a little bit older than me. But you have to say things the way they are, and I'm sure with the kind of heckling that goes on against, famous persons on television, all the insults, all the yelling at they get from management, the boos they get from fans, their Twitter account being bombarded with insults and things like that. All this sort of stuff, mainstream, civilian, public, you don't see any of that because you're not important. But, they do see that. There are people who, say insulting things to them. So, should you ever bump into Dion Phaneuf in real life and you say, hey man, you got a face like a brick wall, he'll act super offended in front of you and probably just say nothing and walk away. But in reality, compared to a lot of the other things that he will have had to go through, that's nothing at all. It's just yeah, fuck you too, buddy. And on his way, basically. I guess every player handles it differently. But, in a sport where that kind of money's being made, some people know this because they work in professions where a lot of money's being moved. And it's not their money, it's just, whatever industry they're in doing whatever. I don't know, shipyard, railroad, you know what I mean, where someone else's money is being moved and you fuck up on a train, you fuck up on a boat, somebody's going to get really angry with you. And that's the same thing with organized sport. And a lot of people are disconnected from that because they work on the assumption that sport in North America is not fixed. And I'm telling you, it most certainly is. There's way too much money. It's way too important for mainstream media propaganda. It's fake. It's not fake, but it's, not what you think it is. That's what it is. It's an alternate fact. And there are some teams that are successful and are able to do things, and it's, kind of backdoor politics on that sort of stuff. That's the real reason. And you can't just look at it from a naive point of view. Anyway, that's a quick summary, or somewhat quick summary of what's been going on in the NHL as far as trades go and all that sort of stuff. In my opinion, nothing really to get worked up about. I did hear Thomas Vanek is going to be on his way out of Vancouver, which wouldn't surprise me. Ever since he left Buffalo, he's just never sat still. Vancouver's terrible hockey club right now. Doesn't even matter. They gotta start looking to next year, because if they try very, very hard and other teams that they're in the playoff race with do very, very bad, then they can make the playoffs. And obviously we'd like to see the Canucks make the playoffs, but that's not a good way of looking at it. Going, well, we need to do our best and they have to do their worst. That's pathetic. It just is. And perhaps there is some Vancouver Canuck fan that will get extremely offended by that and grow some chest hairs. Suck it up. Because the world's not always a nice place, and sometimes you get yelled at for things for various reasons when you piss people off. Anyway, that's it. So I'll talk to you guys later.